Hello and welcome to our 9th episode of Ask a Counselor. I'm Kelley Navar.
I'm Missy Petty. And I'm Christine McMinn.
So this week's topic is called Counselor Bookshelf. So we're going to talk to you about 2 different books that we've recommended to people in the past or really enjoy on our own. And I think, Christine, you're going to start.
I am going to get us started today. So the first book that I want to talk to you guys about, if you've been listening to past episodes, you've probably heard me reference this author before. Her name is Devine, and she wrote a book called It's Okay That You're Not Okay. So that's what the cover looks like. And it is a fantastic resource for anybody who is living with grief. It does a really great job of just talking about how, as a society, we often fail people who are grieving, and so kind of just gives a little bit of education on how to support someone who's grieving. It also gives a lot of great information for an individual themselves who has lost someone, just kind of giving you permission to feel what you're feeling, explaining why you probably feel the way you're feeling, and also gives lots of really great practical strategies, coping skills, things that you can use and apply to the grief experience. The other book, it's actually 2 books that I want to share with you guys, but they go hand in hand with one another. They're both by Brené Brown. Surprise, surprise. If you guys have been to any programming by any one of the 3 of us, you've probably heard us reference Brené before. We are all big fans of her work. I specifically like her book, Daring Greatly, as well as her book, Rising Strong. Both really have very similar messages of just how to stay open and vulnerable when life feels like it's kind of knocking you down. How to communicate about what you're experiencing, healthy communication about feelings, normalizing that it's okay, we all have feelings, and also just really about kind of living in the midst of struggle. A lot of times people will say, like, I just don't want to feel this way anymore, I want this part of my experience to change, or having a hard time waiting. And so she really does a good job of talking about what it's like to kind of be in the waiting and the feelings that come with that.
They're all wonderful books, but yeah, we all love Brené. The first book that I want to talk about, which actually references back to an Ask a Counselor we did a few weeks ago, is the Boundaries book, which is by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. This book has been around for a long time. It's kind of the gold standard as far as boundaries are concerned, and there's a good reason for that. It does a really terrific job in very simple terms of helping you understand why boundaries are important to healthy relationships, regardless of what the relationship is, if it's family, spouse, your children, coworkers, whatever. And also dispels some myths about boundaries and also shows you how to set and keep boundaries going forward. The other feedback that I get pretty consistently from this book is that it's really helpful for some who struggle with giving themselves permission to set boundaries, that there's some great biblical and scriptural references about why it's okay and important to have boundaries. I wind up recommending this book at LivingWell quite a bit because for a lot of patients in particular, having a cancer diagnosis is the first time they find themselves saying no, the first time that they're really making themselves a priority, and the first time that they're really having to examine or start to set boundaries. So if you found that video a few weeks back helpful, or if that's a place where you're struggling right now, I really recommend the Boundaries book. The other book that I want to talk about, I call it the Gottman book, but it's actually called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by Dr. John Gottman. Also a really well-known book and a wonderful book for couples. I think what I like about it is that it has a lot of assessments in it where you can figure out where you're at, maybe where your partner is at, and where some of the disconnect is. It talks about some of the common blind spots in marriages, some of the common pitfalls in marriages, and also asks you to really work on nurturing the friendship within your marriage and gives you some great guidance for how to do that. I think it would be appropriate for any couple, but we do know that couples who have a cancer diagnosis between one of them, any stress they were already experiencing just gets exacerbated. So this is a wonderful way to work on strengthening your connection and your friendship.
All right, so my first book, I don't have a copy of it right here, but I make up for it because it's free. It's called Simple Talk for Tough Times, Talking with Children About Cancer by Marsha Carlson. It's promoted by Alina Health, I think that's how you say it, that's based out in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So it's a book that I probably promote to and give to every single parent that comes through my doors. It goes through, what's really great about it, besides it being a completely free PDF to download, it's about 100 pages though, is that it goes through the different age brackets and how kids understand things developmental wise. So how to talk to them and how to help them to understand about a cancer diagnosis, how to talk to them about that. It goes over how to talk about tough times. It talks about how to talk about uncertainties, how to answer certain questions that they may have. A really great resource for parents and guardians to feel confident in the way that they're going to talk to their kids so that they can, one, understand, but then two, so that it feels they're confident with the information that they've gotten, that it doesn't cause anxieties within them of not having that information. So a great book, great resource. The second one is Trauma Stewardship. It's by Laura Vandernoot Lipsky. This is a really great book. When you first look at it and pick it up, it looks like it might be for only the health professions, nurses, therapists, first responders, things like that. But in the foreword, it's great. They put that it's for anyone anyone who interacts with the suffering, pain, and crisis of others, or even our planet. So what's really great about this book is it goes over our unique trauma responses. So I often recommend this to a lot of the caregivers that come through our doors. Goes over your different trauma responses. What's great is it doesn't read like a self-help book. I actually don't think it's considered a self-help book. I wouldn't consider it one. But it helps you to recognize your own responses to those things and gives you a broad range of ideas on how your unique way of responding, what you can actually do. So putting some things into practice. So those are my two recommendations.
So those are just a couple of resources you may want to check out. I think as we were kind of preparing for today's episode, we talked about how we could probably do a follow-up to this. We had to really pare down the resources we wanted to share with you guys, but lots of wonderful resources out there. We thank you guys for joining us today. If you have questions, want more information on any of the resources that we've shared or counseling services, please feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at counseling@livingwellcrc.org. And we hope to kind of see you back here for our special 10th episode that we're going to be putting out in a couple weeks, all about kind of how to know when counseling might be helpful and what you can expect from the counseling process, benefits of counseling, just learning a little bit more about what kind of the three of us do throughout the week, and how we might be able to support you in other ways. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.